Welcome all. Today's In Conversation session is sadly our last in the series. So I don't know whether you've been to some of the previous ones, but it's covered a variety of topics from business development, advocacy, the origins of Good Things Foundation, the network and our products and services. I suppose today is really an opportunity to reflect on those previous sessions, but also to consider where Good Things is going in the future. So sticking with that theme of the future, Helen, it's quite a long one, but what do you think the future holds for digital inclusion in the UK? How will emerging technologies and societal changes shape access to skills, connectivity and opportunity? And what role does Good Things Foundation have to play within the sector? And I'd be interested to know if you think this will be similar to how the organisation has influenced and helped in the past, or do you think it could be different because of those two or three topics that I've just highlighted?
Just a little question to kick off. I think that I'm going to start with the positive. So I think that we're probably, the UK, and like political awareness and political desire to do something with digital inclusion is probably the highest it's ever been. So let's say that then translates into action. I think that so that must mean that digital inclusion gets investment, let's say. I think there's a definite will to bake in digital inclusion across policy areas and across departments. Obviously, the team have been doing the excellent work with the local authorities, and we obviously have been doing work with combined authorities, GMCA, Liverpool City Region, of course, London as well, for a long time. So I think it's important, that is really important work to see not just the national level, but the regional and the local level as well. And so I think the awareness of digital inclusion went up enormously during the pandemic, and then now, and actually this week been talking about online safety quite a bit. I think the almost like the state of the online world, if I can call it that, is that there feels that there's a real movement to make the online world better, safer, more designed for people rather than for capitalists, if I can say that. I can say that. It's like I can say whatever I like right now. And so I think that that's all incredibly positive, right? I think that the negative is, and actually this came through from the conversations we had on Wednesday. So amazing afternoon we had with businesses and hubs and other stakeholders, other charities on Wednesday afternoon. There is a sense of the country becoming more like dystopian and bleaker, right? That actually technology is bad, the addictive nature of algorithms, that AI is going to eat people's jobs, that the pace of change is too fast, that we already have 1 million young people out of education, training and employment, and that almost there's too much focus on the technology and not on the kind of modern society that we want, right? And I suppose I would say that I see this as a sort of 50-50. And I suppose I see that digital inclusion underpins all of this, because that the people who want to create a modern society that works for everyone, so people, it's designed and works for people. That means that people who are offline can get the equal opportunities as everybody else, and obviously come online and get that support, that they can have fulfilling and interesting jobs that pay their rent and pay their utility bills. That it's almost like that versus the machine, in a way, that technology is an enabler and technology is only in the tools of people. So I hate to say that I'm 50-50 on this. I guess it's partly because the positive changes, it's really hard work, and that kind of comes to what the point about Good Things Foundation. I think the thing that so lots of lovely people have been saying lots of lovely things to me this week, and I think it's about tenacity and hard work. I think that we get loads of compliments about what an amazing organization we are, how we've got such incredible integrity, that we're evidence-based, that we are both in communities and we're in Westminster. But it's also that we just keep going, right? We kind of see the future that we think needs to be there for everyone, and particularly those people who are most excluded, and we keep on working hard for those people. And I think Good Things Foundation will continue to do that, full stop, absolutely. And I think that I do this, I'll be talking about online safety, I'll be talking about what kind of legislation does Parliament want, etc., etc. And then I'll come back to the network. And I think that the National Digital Inclusion Network, I unsubscribed from some things today, and one of them actually had my email address as helen.milner@ukonlinecenters.org. So, we used to call them UK Online Centers. And that network is so fundamental because it reaches and supports people in communities who need that help. And that I think and I hope that Good Things Foundation will always be about that partnership with that network, because the network are so absolutely critical at reaching and helping the people who need the help. And, whatever kind of diverse mix is going to be in any year, obviously it's evolved enormously over the last 20 years. But it's always been fundamental to us having that kind of reality, but also being able to reach those people who need help today. So I think potentially it could be that the types of products and service and support we provide changes and evolves over time based on, like you were saying, the way that society changes, the way that technology changes. But I don't see that there's never going to be a need for actually reaching people where they are in that local community, those local places, trusted faces. And so I think number one is just keep bloody going, right? And don't get distracted by kind of shiny stuff, I'd say. And number two is that network is absolutely critical.
Absolutely. Just a bit of a follow-up, Helen. You used the phrase the capitalists. So I suppose the capitalists are probably one of the main developers and drivers of the technological change. And you touched on the shiny stuff, and I suppose you'd probably put AI in that bracket potentially at the moment. Interested to just get your thoughts on what role you see Good Things has got to play in maybe trying to influence those stakeholders. So I think our plan and strategy for how we work with local authorities and central government departments is clear, who are sort of one element of driving digital inclusion exclusion. The other element is the technology developers. So I'd be interested to get your thoughts on whether you think that has changed, needs to change, whether there's things that we would want to focus on in that space.
Often the answer to these questions are the difference between the people, e.g. the people we know who work in these big companies, and the ultimate kind of goals and change that those companies are willing to see or be part of. And I think what I mean by that is that all of the people that we work with are our strategic partners, and all of the people that we work with, like Google, or we obviously don't do a lot of work with Meta, but we've done a lot of work with Google, that they're good people who are trying to do good things, right? I don't think that they're doing whatever the equivalent is of greenwashing in a kind of tech age. I don't feel like that's what we're doing. I definitely know that they get benefit from working with us. I think they absolutely know that we've got a great reputation and that helps them. But I think they genuinely want to strategically partner with us to make good things happen, right? I think it's a really difficult, and I think that actually in the influencing in conversation, if you weren't there, that it's that thing where it's what do you do behind doors and what do you do in the media and in public, right? And I think that when we work with good people at those companies who can make a big difference, we are, and fully expect the team to continue to say the things that we feel and we think and believe behind doors to those people. So, you know, that phrase critical friend is a really good phrase. Like, be a friend, but also be critical, right? Don't just be obsequious, right? That I think we are actually respected more because we are critical with them behind doors and do point out where we think they're potentially, you know, putting more people in danger or creating technology that might put more people at risk. I think that, but then the flip is and then we then have to work out what do we want to say and when do we want to say it in public, right? And so that if everybody only ever says things, you know, behind closed doors and sideways, then there might not be that kind of movement of change. And I think in some of this, we do need a bit more of a movement of change because, you know, let's just pick on addictive algorithms. Like, addicted algorithms are no good for anybody, but they're terrible for children and teenagers. And they're absolutely terrible for people that we're helping to come on the internet for the first time. We don't want them down rabbit holes being sold things they don't need or damaging and denting their self-esteem that they've been built up at that local hub. And then there's the technology itself. And so I don't think, so although I kind of called it the shiny stuff, I think I was partly pointing my finger at politicians who kind of want to invest in shiny stuff and not in digital inclusion. And don't worry, I do say that to them behind closed doors. That, you know, technology is going to continue to evolve. AI is here. Can you, well, you know, anybody who says that they want to stop it is lying. You can't stop this. This is the real life. This is the real future. It's much more about, back to that, what kind of modern society do we want and how is that technology going to help us and how can it help the people that we care most about, e.g. the most disadvantaged and the most disadvantaged communities, have the best opportunities that they can have, because there's always a positive forward, right? And so technology, that technology can reach people where they are. You know, you don't have to just move to the big cities. You know, that we will have super fast broadband everywhere in the country pretty soon, probably by the end of the decade. So, you know, the infrastructure will be there for people where they are. But all the stuff we know about, like confidence and self-esteem and agency and believing that you belong, you know, that work that our hubs do is as much about that kind of social and human capital that they're building as it is about the technology. And the technology is almost then the next bit to help them to get to the foot of the ladder. And I'm talking about that quite a lot when people talk about skills and employability, and it always seems to be for people who are kind of a few rungs up that ladder, and we're always working with the people who are nowhere near the ladder, right? So I see that our job is to help them get both the technological and the social capital to help them get to the ladder, and then hopefully others can help them to go up that ladder.
Fantastic. That was a really, really interesting and insightful summary of where you think the sector's at. And obviously looking forward is absolutely what we want to do. But I think what can also help in that journey is looking backwards. So I'd be interested to get your reflections, Helen, on maybe one or two nuggets, let's call them, that the organisation has achieved or done in the last 15 years. That could be projects, it could be relationships, it could be particular streams of funding, where you think there's some really, really key lessons and experiences that we learned that could be relevant and strengthen the delivery of our strategy going forward.
So it's interesting you ask that. It's like people have asked me that all the way through the series. But one thing, almost like twisting it a little bit, that I'm kind of worried about is that I feel like I'm the elephant that has all of the filing cabinets in my brain. And so I'm talking to somebody about maybe becoming a strategic partner, and all of a sudden they're asking me about what's the progression from informal learning to formal learning. I go, oh, well, we did a project about that. You know, we did the Community Renewal Fund. And so, yeah, Isabel's nodding. It's good. Like, we've got some people who have been here longer than like 2 weeks. But I think that as we go on, it's really important to remember that we've done all those other things. So, and Power Up. I mean, you know, I started talking about Power Up. I haven't talked about Power Up for like, you know, 2 years maybe, or since we launched the summary report. So the work that we've done, so I mentioned community renewal fund. So that was about supporting people in informal learning to move to formal learning, but actually most people didn't want to go to formal learning, that actually the informal skills was enough for them to then feel like they had the digital skills they needed to go to work. The other big nugget from community renewal fund, which I think is called Pathways to Shared Prosperity, I think is its formal name. It clearly isn't quite catchy enough because I always call it the Community Renewal Fund, is that we thought 50% of people would need a laptop who were taking part. So these were all unemployed people, some long-term unemployed, some just job seekers. And actually 80% of them didn't have a laptop, which they could use for job searching and learning. And so actually, the sort of device poverty for those people was much higher than we anticipated it. And then future digital inclusion, right? I think that we kind of sometimes characterize future digital inclusion as like just a program where we massively scaled, giving out grants and helping lots of people learn. But actually, the outcomes of that, and that is, I think, one reason why I'm saying that's important, and I will make sure. So on the Google Drive, and hopefully that's shared with everyone, and I'll share it with everybody afterwards if it's not. There's a PowerPoint deck called "Delivering EDS in Communities" (brackets FDI Community Digital Skills Pathway), right? Because we weren't allowed to publish the evaluation report on future digital inclusion because they basically stopped a program that was having massive impact for really low cost, right? And so DfE, sorry, you have to laugh, don't you? The DfE officials didn't want that to be known in public. So they didn't allow us to publish the findings. So just for those of you who can like burrow away in the G Drive, and let's make sure that we get that shared widely across the team. So that's not on our website. It's not in the public domain. Enough time has gone. I think you can put it in the public domain and share it with people. But we had 1.5 million people, I think, were supported through Future Digital Inclusion. This was a skills project in hubs, and I believe 20% of them went from unemployed to employed, right? So that's the kind of thing that I think is so important to remember, that actually focusing on the basic digital skills and the human capital then actually gets people ready to participate in society and, for example, get jobs. I mean, compared to the other outcomes, that was like super low. But when you start putting 20% on 1.5 million, that's a lot of people, right? So it's probably more than any other employment program did at that same period of time. And then the other one that I think that you're in danger of forgetting about is the 6 years that we spent with NHS England on the widening digital participation program. So again, we did the sort of first 3 years was much more around skills and supporting people to get the skills and to use, like Learn My Way content, etc. But in 1 year, we proved that the channel shift saving for the NHS was £6 million in one of those 3 years. And then the second 3 years, we did that, and we also did Amazing Pathfinders. That's when we had our like service design unit, where we, staff. Pete and Tim are coming to my informal drinks on Thursday evening. So people like Tim and Pete like went and slept with rough sleepers on the streets to talk to them about their digital needs and their health needs. So actually bringing those together, we had the first digital health hub on the high street. It was an old butcher shop down in the southwest. And now there are digital health hubs all over the place, including in Leeds, and a lot of the work that Leeds has been doing in the Leeds program actually kind of started through the widening digital participation program. So I think those things, you know, when we kind of go, oh, health, what are we doing? And the amazing work we do with like maternity services and now the NHS 10-year plan, and we're involved with the neighbourhood health programme with the NHS 10-year plan. It's like, let's not forget we also have those 6 years of experience too. And the good news is everything, I think, apart from FDI, has all got reports and is all on our website or in our archive somewhere. So I think the good news is there's lots of absolute gems if you go and kind of delve into it. And yeah, like, and I'm sorry, I just want to mention Google Garage as well. So I think Google Garage was really interesting, really different to what we've done before. But again, that kind of hub concept on a high street, well funded, did lots of really great work with SMEs, but also, you know, the kinds of people that we would imagine are going into digital inclusion hubs today in community settings also did walk into those Google garages because of where they were on the high street. And so I think that we should be incredibly proud of that, the work that we did, helping to set those up and to staff them up and to skill up the people who were in there to actually understand the very basic skills that people might be coming in with, rather than something, you know, like a Googler might think that everybody knows how to use all these tools that we've got in our pockets and on our desktops, and they just need that kind of next bit up. But we actually help them to understand those people who aren't at the foot of the ladder.
Fantastic. I'll open it up to the room now. So guys, if you've got any questions on what Helen's touched on today, both the future of good things and those gems, those nuggets, those projects that we've done that you know, she's worried and we're all worried that may get lost with her moving on. But Isabel first.
I just want to say, Helen, that was such a useful reminder of the wealth of experience from previous projects. It's like, oh yeah, I remember. So we won't forget. There are enough of us, I think, who've been around long enough who won't forget. Thinking about our strategy period that's just ended, what has most surprised you in terms of what we achieved?
Oh, good question. So two things. I want to say the incredible growth in the number of hubs that we have. And I believe that hasn't all been about data banks. I think I thought it was all about data banks. And then actually in one of these in conversations, Emma Bradley went, well, actually, it's not all data banks. They actually are joining for digital inclusion as well, which was fascinating. So I think when we set the target of 5,000 active hubs in 2022, I didn't think we would achieve it. And we have. So active, so I think we have like 5,500 or something like that active, like regularly using products and services now, but over 8,000 hubs, which is absolutely fantastic. Like I can believe it, obviously, but you know what I mean. I didn't anticipate that we'd be that successful at that. And I want, because I said two things, and this is probably a third thing, is that like the absolute success of the data bank, you know, that I guess the success of the data bank, but then it also makes me feel incredibly sad and depressed that there's so many people who need the data bank, right? If you think how fundamental it is to have connection to the internet, but also how cheap it is to get a SIM, actually the fact that we have people who don't have 10 quid when they absolutely need it in crisis to buy a top up, it's just like unbelievable that we live in that country. And then the other thing is I want to talk about strategic partners, because I think they're wonderful. I think that we absolutely sold them the dream of being in a collective and it being collaborative and it being about being a strategic partner, and that we were honest about it being about partnership and it being about it being strategic. And I think they absolutely have stepped up to the plate. I mean, all of them have, but I think Vodafone 3 now, and Virgin Media O2 in particular, because they clearly compete so much with each other commercially, their willingness to sort of talk about sort of shared ambitions and goals for digital inclusion and for the data bank collectively together with Nominate, with Accenture, with us, I think has been really terrific, and willing to show up, to help, to support us, I think has been, so I definitely think that strategic partner model has been, I guess, even better than I expected it to be. And the fact that we've now had, renewals from Vodafone 3 and from Virgin Media O2 means that they also obviously think that it's a good model that they want to keep on with as well, not just for us. But so not just about their own vested interest and the things that they kind of come to us, say, I want you to do this. They actually are very willing to kind of listen and develop those things with us.
Thanks, Helen. I think that's exactly right. I think we shouldn't forget that the funding model and the approach to business development shifted radically. The strategic partnership model was new. You hadn't done it before, and I think it has been a resounding success, as you outline. I'll go to Madeline.
Yeah, it follows on quite well from Isabel's question. Just thinking about, obviously you're coming to retire and no one could say that you haven't had an incredibly successful career with Good Things. How has your idea for what success looks like changed from when you were first founding Good Things to what you now think of when you look ahead?
Good question. I think in 2011, so literally founding Good Things Foundation, it was about that kind of big scale delivery of skills. I mean, as you all know, we didn't do data and advices until 2020, so until the pandemic. So it was about, obviously, a network incredibly important, reaching people where they are, but helping people get that kind of confidence and skills, and very much about how do we scale that, and that the grant funding model has benefits, but it also has disadvantages in that kind of you incentivize certain behavior, that then you only get the behavior that you incentivize, as opposed to, I think we get kind of broader behavior now potentially. So I think that I was very plugged in sort of policy wise, advocacy wise then, but I think now, maybe because of the success that we had with Labour in opposition, that they then brought into Parliament, into government when they won the election, I realise how important that system change, social change can be, right? So actually influencing a government to set up a 40-person unit, to invest £12 million in an innovation fund, to have a digital inclusion action committee chaired by a powerful, Blairite baroness, to bring that kind of energy and action kind of across a wider sector. I mean, there wasn't a digital inclusion sector back in 2011, right? And then now is. So I think that I thought that because we had that kind of power to be able to scale and deliver, that actually scaling and delivering was the way of proving that this was really important. And now I think that it's much more about that kind of collective ambition to change system. I think we also should still do the delivery bit and the scaling bits that we do, which is amazing, like the data bank, like the device bank, like supporting the National Digital Inclusion Network. So that scaling is really important and is a superpower of Good Things Foundation. But actually, if we're going to help 10 million people who are still excluded, we're not going to do it all. We Good Things, you Good Things, are not going to do it all. Therefore, using the power and the reputation that Good Things has to really shift the system and shift society and shift all government departments and all local authorities to bake this in and see it as being important is much bigger in my thinking than it was in 2011.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madeline. That was an excellent and very tough question, I thought, and very well answered, Helen. I'll go to Lisa Docky.
So my question is going to be a lot easier. I was going to ask what are your regrets, Helen, but as we all know from these in conversations, you don't have regrets, so that's fine. So my question is, what are you going to miss the most when you retire, and what do you think your biggest challenge is? Because I've been here 7 years and you do not sleep, you do not stop. So how are you going to relax, and what are you going to miss the most?
Fantastic question, Lisa. I don't know if it's easier at all, actually, to be honest with you. I think that obviously I'm going to miss all of you. I mean, I think that is probably the thing I'm going to miss the most, is having all of you to chat to find out what you're doing, what you're thinking about, the stories from the hubs. I've already said, so I live really close to Learn for Life. I've already said to Haley that if I get bored, I'm going to pop down and see her. So, I might end up volunteering with Haley, just to get a little bit of that like hub action. So I think that, I mean, just tell you the things I won't miss. So I won't miss, like, I'm a night owl, right? So actually, although I never sleep, that's partly because I go to bed really late and then I have to get up early because I have to, work, right? So I know theoretically you don't have to work like 9 to 5:30, but actually you're supposed to start at morning, right? So I'm not going to miss setting the alarm clock. And I've never had a holiday in 40 years that hasn't been completely dictated timing wise by work. So for example, I usually take holidays in the summer holidays when the schools are off, because that's when other things are quiet, other people go on holiday. So that's when I would go on holiday. So actually being able to say, oh, do we feel like going there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, instead of like, oh, I can fit these 10 days in here and it's like expensive because it's half term or whatever. So, I won't miss either of those things. I think just, the variety. And so I think that I know that I'm going to miss that. So I'm, I'm the chair of the environmental charity SUBAC. So I'm really looking forward to getting involved with them. And actually, when I took that up, I thought I would learn about the climate crisis and how technology can help solve it. And I haven't, because I haven't had time. I've just been like, let's get your governance in place. Let's make sure we've kind of signing off our accounts. You know what I mean? Is that almost like the governance-y bit rather than the fun bit, like the learning bit. So I'm going to try and learn from other people. I think, so, I mean, I'm probably say this ad nauseum next week as well, but we're selling our house in Sheffield. And so I think, Lisa, this is the reason I'm telling you this, is because that is the thing that I think is going to keep me sane, because it's quite a big project to get all the junk, last 25 years worth of junk out of it, to get it ready to sell, to then obviously go through all that process of selling it. So it's kind of like I have a project, right? And so I feel very happy that I don't have to think about what am I going to do today, like so I can be, very annoying to Milton and keep giving him to-do lists of what he needs to be clearing out and throwing away and taking to the charity shop. And so, yeah, so I have a project, and I think that's going to keep me sane in the early days while I kind of work out what that equilibrium looks like.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, thank you all for attending. Some really, really good questions. Given this is the last session, I'll leave last words to you, Helen, if you want to close up.
Wow. When I told you all I was retiring, I said I felt like I could, right? And that did weigh on me a lot over the years when many of you were here, like when I was looking after my mum and then she died. Like that, then I felt like, oh, actually I now could retire. I could move to Australia. Like, I didn't have those like commitments that I had when I was looking after my mum. And so it's that, I feel so confident that you're all going to be amazing, basically, right? That, that our reputation is fantastic. Everybody who I talk to talks about how amazing the team is. We've got a really great set of funders and a great funding pipeline. Vicky's full of energy, full of ideas. I think she's going to be great, but the SMT are also great, right? So, we know we have great leadership. anyway within the organization. So I am going to miss you all incredibly, but I have absolute confidence that you're just going to keep on doing great things. And although, like your first question, Adam, about how do you see the future and how do you see that we're going to evolve, those are my ideas, but I also hope that you're all going to have better ideas, right? That you're all going to be, you know, bringing your ideas and your innovation and your creativity to, you know, what good things does in the future. And I really look forward to sort of seeing that from afar. And I'm hoping that you're all going to surprise me.